From the far reaches of space to the darkest places on Earth, join us as we explore the haunted, the cryptid, the creepy, and more. Exposing Reality Radio presents the Spectral Wolfpack Show, your paranormal nightmare, with your host, Alexander Bobolinsky.
What's up, Wolfpack? We're live and ready to rock. Still a little not all there after Mothman Fest. It was a wild weekend. We literally were busy at the fest every single, Saturday and Sunday, and then investigating at night at the Low Hotel in the TNT area, and then also the 8.5 hour drive there and back. So I guess almost 17 hours of driving and then several hours of investigating. I think I was only getting like 3 hours of sleep a night or something, but it was awesome. Huge shout out to Eric Connor for coming and helping out, and also bringing some merch and things like that. The next event I'll be doing will be the October Bigfoot Days in Tennessee. Should be the 19th and 20th, and I think they're doing a little Comic-Con thing on the 21st on that Sunday. So I will be there for all of that. If anyone wants to come, let me know, and I'll tell you how to get tickets. So let's jump right in tonight. Our guest, Frank Lee, a paranormal researcher, founder and director of CASPIR, the Central Alabama Society for Paranormal Investigation and Research, has a background in several areas of study in science and technology, including electronics, communications, biology, microbiology, environmental science, and medical studies. He has always had a fascination with science and history and a passion to learn more about the unexplained. Frank feels that all knowledge gained from paranormal research should be utilized to help others, and what is considered paranormal today will be common knowledge in the scientific community tomorrow. He also enjoys sharing what he has learned from his own studies while promoting education and teamwork in the field of paranormal research. And guys, I've included his bio in the description and some of the links to his websites. So if you want to learn more about him, definitely check that out. I'm going to bring him right in. Frank, what's up, man?
How are you tonight, Alex?
Doing pretty good. It's been quite a day. Tried to get the lawn mowed and everything, but kind of got overgrown on me from all the travels I went.
Oh, I can definitely understand. Well, the good thing about it, it's always waiting on you when you get back, right?
Oh yeah, it was waiting. It's pretty bad, but I'm getting it done, and I kind of wanted to grow it up and see if maybe I get a family of Bigfoot to come live in the lawn.
Right, it's no longer a lawn, it's a habitat now.
Yeah, exactly. So, Frank, we met at the Kimolga Gristmill investigation with Kim from Scare.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was the first time we met, and then we also got to hang out a little bit with Jonathan Odom that night at Talladega National Forest.
Mm-hmm.
And I gotta say, man, every time I see you, I always learn something new, and I appreciate how you do things.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. My thinking on it is, there is no shortage of paranormal teams out there by any means.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many people that are doing the relatively same things, but we're not really seeing, for as many people are doing it, we're not seeing a lot of solid, concrete returns. So kind of my thinking is, why don't we try something different instead of doing the same things expecting different results? So, I try to be a little out of the box with it and, try to kind of look at a few new ideas with things, and sometimes I get lucky, sometimes I find out I was absolutely 100% wrong, but that's what research is all about, right?
Definitely. Yeah, I like how, I think it was at the grist mill, I mean, you were just trying out a lot of different experiments. I think we were using like the white noise generator, the Tascam recorder, and then of course you had your millimeter with the REM attachment, which that's an awesome piece.
Well, and you know, something that we did out there is something I refer to it as a silent ghost box session, where you use some type of white noise, or you can even use a ghost box. And you know, power of suggestion is so powerful. It's such a strong, powerful force, especially in the paranormal field. If I say to you, Alex, I want you to go with me here. This place is just insanely haunted. It's creepy. It's spooky. And you got to be careful. You're going to get hurt there if you're not careful. And I just really build this up.
Yep.
And then I take you there. The place may not be haunted at all, but those subliminal keys that I've put are going to be in the back of your mind, and it can influence an investigation. And the same goes when we're doing an EVP session, when we're doing, you know, like ghost boxing, anything like that, even taking photos and going back looking through them. You know, if I say if we're doing a ghost box session, and I say, you know, what's your favorite color? We're going to be automatically listening for blue, green, red, orange, you know, something like that.
Yep.
When if we get a response, it might be something completely unrelated to the question. So what we're doing, the silent ghost box, kind of helps eliminate that by, you remember we had one person listening to the output from the ghost box through headphones that were noise canceling, so, you know, she couldn't hear anything that we asked.
Yep.
And, you know, her job was to listen, and whatever she heard come through the spirit box, to repeat it, and repeat it with the same tone and inflection that she heard it. Then you have all of us sitting there, another person designated to ask the questions, who can't hear what the ghost box is doing. So in doing that, you've separated question and answer. So if you get a correlation between the two, then chances are it's something intelligent.
Yeah, that's definitely an awesome method.
So we've had really good luck doing that.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try more of that, because that's something that. Do you remember anything we got that specific night? I can't really remember.
I can't remember anything from that. No, I do remember a little while after that, you know, we split up into the two groups. One group did the mill while the other went out into the woods near the old covered bridge. And later, after we had switched positions, I remember we were down in the woods, and I was live listening. You know, a lot of times I'll take my recorder, and I'll, you know, plug a set of headphones into it so that I can hear what it's recording as it records. And very, very handy to do when you're, especially if you're doing an EVP or something like that.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many times that has proven to be effective. We were down there, and I remember Kim Johnston, you know, from Scare, she got some strange images on the floor.
Yeah.
It looked like figures peeking around from the trees. It was so strange. And you know, I'm more of a rational type individual. I tend to be more skeptical, but that was, you know, so that was messing with me. It's like, okay, no, this is weird. Okay, I can't debunk this.
Yeah.
But we were doing that, and while I was live listening, we started hearing what sounded like Native American tribal drums playing in the background. And we started hearing those at the same time, because I remember I had Kat Hobson. She was listening through one of the recorders, and she asked me, she says, "Frank, what is this?" And at about the same time that Kim was getting the figures, we started hearing the drums, and it was crazy up there.
Yeah. I remember when we all went out there by the, I guess we were by that little, the little creek. Yeah, that was some interesting stuff. I think, didn't we also hear like a scream or something out there, or like some people heard it and a couple of others didn't, or something like that, and that was a cool place.
It really was. You know, when we did that, also, this kind of sticks out in my mind from when we were there. I remember Kat, everybody was gone outside, except for, it was me, Kat, and someone else in there. And I remember she kind of peeks her head around through the doorway into the main part of the mill. And yells up the stairs. She says, "Okay, now hopefully somebody will come down and talk to us while this group comes in, you know, because they came here to see it." And I'm not kidding in the least that we literally heard footsteps come from up at the area where, and you know, nobody was allowed to go up the stairs there where they were working them. But we sure enough did. It was like direct response. We heard footsteps come down the stairs.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember I think later in the night we were hearing more sounds coming from up there, and we were like, I think one of the employees like went up there to check or something.
Oh, you're right.
Because I mean, that's pretty awesome. One thing I wanted to ask about, and it's in the bio and the description, but a little bit about your first experience. Was that when you started investigating? Had you already had any experiences from earlier in your life? Or?
Not really. I mostly just had curiosity. You know, I remember. You know, I was that kid in second grade. Everyone else was reading like Clifford the Big Red Dog and, you know, all these other little books like that. And I'm sitting there reading mysteries of Easter Island and UFOs and,
Nice.
You know, those scary stories to tell in the dark. And, you know, so it started early. And when I turned 15, I started really getting interested in it. You know, I started really looking more seriously at it, reading. When I was 15, I read ESP Hauntings and Poltergeists by Louis Auerbach.
Nice.
And that, oh my gosh, that book just fascinated me. It's like, I've got to learn more about this. I've got to do it. Then in, be 19 years ago this month, I think about September of 99, I went on my first investigation.
Yeah.
And it was so funny. I'm telling you, Alex, that, you know, you have to think back then, you know, digital cameras weren't much of a thing. The argument was still hot on if digital cameras would ever even be accepted for paranormal research. You know, digital voice recorders weren't really around. You know, it was, I remember trudging around through an old cemetery up in Gardendale. It's middle of the night. It's me and two other guys, and we're out there. I'm carrying around my Radio Shack micro cassette recorder and my flashlight, and we're out there. I'm nervous, scared as hell. And, I'm not even going to lie about it. I was.
Yeah.
And while we were out there, trudging through, I never will forget, something caught my eye. And I turned around. And when I went to look, I don't know why, but I took a step or two backwards. And I felt something against my back, and it felt like a claw.
Mm-hmm.
And at that moment, I knew something has jumped up out of the ground, and it's about to kill me. This is how I die, right here in the middle of this cemetery.
Yeah.
And I did. I felt something going up my back, and it shocked me so bad. I turned around and spun around and kind of moved backwards all at the same time to see, try and catch a glance at what it was before it killed me. And when I did, and I looked, and that dogwood tree, that low-hanging limb from it was just, it had rubbed up against my back, and that was the claw that I felt.
Yeah.
Well, in the middle of my spinning around and jumping backwards, I tripped over a tombstone and just about did a somersault. And as a miracle, I didn't bust my head open on the tombstone on the next row over.
Yeah.
So I'm so thankful we didn't have a video camera over there at the time. One of the most comical things you ever seen. It took me years to live that down. But I will say, while we were out there, I got one EVP.
Mm-hmm.
And all it was a simple, hey, I'm here.
Nice.
And that was all it took. After that, 19 years later, I'm still
hooked.
Addicted to it.
Oh, yeah. Was that at I'm trying to think. I've been to Hodges Cemetery. I know that's a smaller one, I think it's in Gardendale.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember which cemetery that was?
That's the one.
Hodges? Yeah. Hodges is scary, man. I remember I was out there one night, and I'm like, just having a good time and everything, and then I look up, and there's this giant spider coming down out of the trees right toward my head, and I was like, nope. I'm out. And then haven't been back since.
Yeah, that's where the dogwood tree, I knew it was going to just kill me.
Yeah.
I did. I felt something came out of the ground, and that was going to be the end of me right there.
Yeah, that place, that's actually kind of where I got the name Spectral Wolf Pack from, because some people have claimed that they see a spectral wolf out there at that cemetery. But that's cool, though. I like that place. I need to go back there someday, because, can't let... I'm not that scared of spiders, but some of the big ones, they're...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They're creepy.
Oh, yeah, no doubt.
I wanted to know, how was the, is it called the Vasilla Axe Murder House? Is that right?
Oh, yeah, up there at Villisca, Iowa.
Villisca, that's right.
The Villisca Axe Murder House is somewhere that, anyone listening, that if you've got a team, you need to go investigate there. It's an awesome, awesome place.
Yeah.
Now, while I was there, we got, a good mix of both intelligent and residual activity. Matter of fact, in one of my YouTube videos that we posted for CASPIR's YouTube channel, I'm sitting there in the house by myself. You see, as I walk in the door, you hear you hear a little girl say, maybe they're ghost hunters.
Wow.
And few minutes later, I'm sitting in there by myself. You hear, a few responses, and you actually see a ball in the floor start rolling by itself.
Oh, man.
And it's kind of rolling back and forth just a little, like someone's kind of batting it.
Yeah.
And I say, if that's you, can you roll that, And on command, it starts rolling. And I say, well, can you stop it? And sure enough, on command, it stops.
That's amazing.
And, very, very interesting place. The Villisca murder house, that, there were 8 people murdered there. It's still an unsolved case. And that happened, when that happened, that was in June of 1912. And that story was so big that it took the sinking of the Titanic off of the front page.
Wow. Yeah. You said 8 people, right?
Mm-hmm. It was 2 adults, husband and wife, their 4 children, and 2 of the neighbor children. Basically what had happened, they had went to a church service that evening, and so they came back, and they believe that someone was already in the house hiding somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
But since the church service they went to had gotten out a little later than they planned on, the two children, the Stillinger girls, they actually stayed over with their friends. They were the Moores who lived there, and they were all found the next morning, and they had all been murdered with an axe in their beds.
Wow. Did they know who did the murder?
They never have solved it.
Dang. That's insane.
Yeah, you can still read about that in just as many unsolved crime books as you can paranormal books.
Yeah. That's one of those locations, when you see the picture, the kind of the famous sign out front and everything, it's like I want to go there. So I got invited to go. Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say it's definitely an awesome location and well worth the trip.
Definitely. I got invited to go recently, but it was, it's a pretty long drive from here, so I wasn't able to make it. But it's on the list of places to go in the future.
I definitely want to go back and do it again. And I will say this, you hear so many people say, oh, that place is terrifying, I'd never go there. It's really not a scary place. It really isn't. Now, it has a very somber feel to it.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as, scary, no, it's not. And, people all the time are like, well, what if he's still hiding up there?
Oh, man.
And it's like, the guy, this family lived there. This guy didn't die there. He was there maybe a total of, 3 or 4 hours his entire life. Why would he still be there?
Yeah. I wonder, and what year did you say it happened in again? In
1912.
Wow. So I guess he, well, I don't know. You think he's still alive? What do you think?
I figure he's probably gone by now, but it's, but yeah, I think that, there's a good mixture of intelligent and residual activity there. Mm-hmm. Because we get a lot of direct responses to us. For instance, there was one person there that had their camera. They set up a camcorder in the kitchen facing into the living room. And not long after they walked away from it, it literally got spun around facing the wall.
Wow. That's insane.
And no one touched it. Yeah, and lots of interesting things kind of like that happened while we were there. I had the ball rolling. I had, some direct responses to questions I asked. And, but there's definitely a residual field too.
Yeah, that's some awesome activity, especially like the poltergeist type, stuff moving and that camera spinning around. I think someone recently caught something similar to that. I think I think it was at Halesbar Dam with the camera spinning around. I wanted to ask though, what would you say? I want to do top 5 locations, but also I want to know your top 5 just in Alabama as well.
Well, just in Alabama, I would say, Fort Morgan is a really, really active place. And it's a cool place to visit historically too. I would say there of course is the Old Brass, which of course no one has ever trespassed or went in there to investigate, but I hear it's not.
Yeah.
But I would say that one is really active. That quite a few good EVPs. Sloss Furnace. I've had the opportunity to investigate there several times over the years, and it's quite active. But a couple of funny stories about Sloss that I have to tell you. But definitely Sloss. I definitely like the Pickens County Courthouse. They're that's the one that's famous for the face in the courthouse window.
Oh yeah, I haven't been there yet.
We actually investigated there back in I think it was March that we went down there, and talking about the cameras being turned off and everything. There was no one in the building, and I had someone. If you see my setup that I use a separate battery pack to power my camera, and off of that one battery pack, I run my camera, my illuminators, and everything.
Yeah.
Someone walked up to the camera. You hear it, and switched it off at the battery pack.
Wow.
And there was no one in there. I mean, it was upstairs in the courtroom. You hear the old, and you can hear everyone outside. And the way that building is, from the moment someone crosses through that threshold coming in the building, period, you can hear every step they make and where they go. Yeah. There were no footsteps, no one around. And all of a sudden you hear the swinging gate that divided where the judge's area and the council would sit. You hear that gate swing, and then a few moments later you hear click, and the camera just dies.
Dang. So you heard it like it's one of those like swinging little, like the little swinging gate to get into the. Dang, that's awesome, man. I didn't know that place was that wild.
Very, very interesting place. And let me see. And as far as another one, I would say it. Oh gosh, narrowing it down. Now I know that, and of course, excluding like private residences and things like that we've done here, but. I'm going to say, this is not a place that we've actually investigated, but I'm going to say Briarfield State Park.
Nice.
And the reason I say that, there was the old Briarfield Ironworks. I went there. This has been years and years ago. This was one of my first paranormal experiences that really this was my first time to ever actually see an apparition.
Mm-hmm.
One of my friends was like hardcore into Civil War reenactments. And, he'd been asking me for a couple of years, hey, come to this reenactment. Go like it. Come do this. One weekend, he's like, hey, we've got one that's close by, because most of them were usually a couple of hours away.
Mm-hmm.
So I agreed, went down there to it. And, at a Civil War reenactment, everyone is camped out in period-style tents. They're all wearing period-style clothing. And, I went, we're sitting there, just kind of taking it easy. Finally, as the night goes on, almost everyone else is gone to bed. We've been just sitting there on the fire. And I see this person walking through, period clothing, didn't really think anything about it.
Mm-hmm.
Until they walked through the tent.
Wow.
Like,
and then
physically passed through.
And then you're like, oh.
So,
wow.
Like I said, that was one of the first times I'd ever seen an apparition, and that,
yeah.
That freaked me out pretty good. That was pretty wild.
Yeah, that gives me chills just thinking about it.
But,
especially when you're like, it's just looking normal for where you're at and everything. You're at the reenactment, and then you see that. It's like, oh.
Well, I mentioned Sloss Furnace.
Mm-hmm.
I had something similar happen to me there. This happened, Kim Johnston, her team has led some haunted, like some ghost hunting tours through Sloss. And I remember one time I was helping her lead the tour through there.
Yeah.
I stepped away from the group to go get a picture of Sloss has the old water tower, and the moon was out and it was behind it, just really cool. So I stepped away from the group to go snap that picture. And I look, and, there's this guy standing behind me, looking at me. Well, I think, well, okay, that's someone from the tour. And I say, here, would you like to get a picture too? Let me let you get yours first. And so I turn around, kind of get out of his way. And when I look back at him, he's gone.
Wow. Yeah.
But he was that plain that I literally thought it was someone from, from the tour.
That happened to me at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. There was someone standing beside me, and I kind of moved out of the way to let them go through the door first. And then when I turned back around, they were just gone. No one was there, and I couldn't really make out any features on it. It was just like this dark, shadowy human shape, and yeah, it's awesome when you see stuff like that.
Oh yeah, but Sloss Furnace is, there's definitely some activity there, but it's one of those places that the history has gotten so twisted and everything that it's crazy.
Yeah.
I can remember going there over the years. It is so much more active in the daytime than it ever is at night.
Mm-hmm.
And, and the whole thing is, if you watch any kind of paranormal show about Sloss Furnace, what's the first thing that you hear about? Who's the bad ghost there?
A slag, right?
Right. You always hear them. They're talking about Slag. Oh, Slag's haunting this place.
Mm-hmm.
Slag never existed. Slag was the company comes in every year and they do the Sloss Frat Furnace around Halloween. And, well, now granted, there has been paranormal activity reported at that site since before the mill was built.
Mm-hmm.
But, just having a place, it's a big creepy steel mill, is not quite scary enough to convince someone to spend $20-$25 for a ticket to go through there. So what they did is the marketing agency that promotes the Sloss frat friends created slag, evil foremen, and they pulled off, a few things from several different events that had happened.
Wow.
And that's how slag became created. Well, people would see, that was in the 90s. The internet was still brand new. But people would see something on a website, copy it, paste it to theirs, copy it, paste it to theirs, till suddenly it was accepted as fact.
Yeah.
And, even like if you ever saw Ghost Adventures went there, the whole time you see, there's this one guy saying, yes, slag appeared and he grabbed me. And you see, Zach Bagans running around going, come out and get me, slag. Well, he might as well yell, come out and get me, Easter Bunny, because neither one of them were. But that just goes to show, why it's so important to research the history.
Yeah.
But, I've never really seen anything. Yeah, I've never really seen or gotten anything menacing there, but I've definitely gotten a lot of activity there. And yes, there's a story of, the employees threw slag off into the furnace and is incinerated and molten still. No, slag never did. But no, there was a guy who that did happen to.
Yeah.
Amphibious showers. He did fall into the still, but he wasn't hated by anyone. He was a very well-respected person. And the thing of it is, when that happened, it wasn't Sloss furnace. At that time, the furnace that he fell into was in operation across town at Oxmoor Furnace.
Yeah. When
Oxmoor Furnace went out of business, Sloss bought the furnace. They deconstructed it, moved it, and rebuilt it on the Sloss side.
Wow. Yeah, it's amazing how these stories get twisted up like that. But it makes so much sense now, and dang, I didn't know that. I'm glad you told me.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who, that's one of those cases where finding the truth about the site and the actual history of it is much, much harder than finding the urban legend.
Yeah,
and that happens a lot.
It does. I know a few, or one recently was the TNT area where, near the town of Point Pleasant, the Mothman town. On the bus tour, they'll tell you that the Mothman was sighted by the place that they take you. It's one of the igloos from the TNT bunkers, but he was actually sighted over by the old power plant. So just kind of some misinformation, they like you said, for marketing purposes, and yeah.
Well, something interesting about the whole Mothman occurrence is for a year before that sighting, before the bridge collapsed and everything, this is just something that, to kind of think about, there were increased reports of hauntings, there were increased reports of UFO sightings, and other cryptid-type sightings, Bigfoot reports, all sorts of things. So it wasn't just Mothman. It's like all these different types of paranormal or unexplained activity started peaking all about the same time before that happened, leading up to it. So it kind of makes you wonder how much of that is actually connected.
Oh, I definitely think about that a lot too. And yeah, what do you think about that? I mean, because with a lot of these, kind of like with Talladega National Forest, there's been UFO sightings and little people and fairies and Bigfoot and what do you think it's connected sometimes, or?
I think there is some type of connection there, because if you notice, a lot of times where the same place that's famous for UFOs is also famous for cryptids or Bigfoot sightings.
Yep.
And usually around that same time, you're going to hear more reports of hauntings too,
Yeah.
around the same time in the same area. And, you have to wonder, what's the link here? How does this connect? Because, I don't think Bigfoot's riding in a UFO, hauling his ghost friends around, but, somehow, it's like, what's the correlation there? That is one of the things that I think about so often, and, I can't pinpoint it myself, I'll be the first to tell you, I'm no expert, and I'm not ashamed to say I don't know in a heartbeat.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm the same way. Like, I'm will always be learning and trying to figure this stuff out, and like, will we ever figure it out? I don't know. But
right, well, that's why I'm a researcher, because I want to know.
Exactly. We want to find the answers, and maybe we will. But it reminds me of are you familiar with Ron Moorhead? He's a author and Bigfoot researcher. He out in the Sierra Mountains, he had some, they were having experiences with the Bigfoot, and he said when he got home, he started having kind of like poltergeist activity, or he would hear like sounds in his house and clicking and weird sounds. And I think he's on that same wavelength, that there's some kind of connection or something going on there. And it's strange.
It really is. And there are just so many accounts of, and I have friends that are researchers that, that's like, one of them, that I was talking to recently, his background is, he's been doing this since the 80s, and he was actually trained by Ed Warren. He used to investigate with them. But
nice.
When he was a teenager, he kind of became their apprentice.
Mm-hmm.
And that was something that me and him talked about extensively last time we talked, was how many crossover cases that there are out there, and how those how they seem to oddly connect.
Yeah. I mean, even like looking at the Bell Witch stories and stuff, how they were dealing with like poltergeist activity and disembodied voices and strange cryptid animals and just all kinds of stuff. And yeah, it really makes you wonder. It's
oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
And it almost makes you wonder, or are you dealing with a primate, or is it something else, something more supernatural?
One thing me and my friend Jay were talking about was like, is this some is this the universe like literally messing with us? Like, it's like I'm gonna joke on you, and you're gonna see a Bigfoot and then have this paranormal experience, and or like what something like trying to mess with you, or is this? I mean, like, I guess none of us know for sure.
Well, something to think about is, everybody, remembers hearing about the theory of relativity.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you don't understand how it works, you've heard of it. Well, one of the things relativity does great with, on a large scale, when you're talking about, massive solar systems and all of that. But when you get down to more of a, subatomic level, it has issues. And so one of the big things out there is string theory. If you look into string theory kind of ties in relativity and kind of works its way down to the subatomic level.
Mm-hmm.
String theory basically says that we don't live in a universe, that we live in a multi-dimensional multiverse made up of at least 14 dimensions. Because of that you can have things like dimensional shifts, you can have space-time rifts, wormholes, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people believe that, some of the cryptids, that the reason that they're seen so rarely and seem to be so evasive is that they don't actually dwell here, that they're interdimensional beings.
Yep.
And that when you see one, that it's more of not like a time slip sort of thing. Or not a time slip, but a dimensional slip.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, definitely something to consider, because I always go back, there's this one story in one of Linda Godfrey's books where this guy's like surfing with his friends, and then this like weird fog comes over and he sees this pterodactyl fly overhead, and no one else saw it but him, and that's kind of what he was leaning toward, that it was some kind of time slip like that, or some kind of dimensional shift. I mean, that's just it's just awesome.
When you start when you start reading some of those reports of things like that, I mean, it will literally keep you up at night trying to figure out what is that,
Yep. Yeah, it's very true.
It's fascinating.
It is, and it makes me want to figure out, like, how can I be there, find where that's going to happen next, or like, so I can see for myself. Have you ever had any cryptid sightings or anything like UFO, things like that?
I haven't yet, but hey, I'm hoping that, one of these days I'll be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah, we'll have to, we need to do some more stuff together. We'll have to do some more Bigfoot investigations together.
Absolutely. I've always been fascinated with it, That's, it's definitely something that I would like to do more often.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you, back to the paranormal, do you do anything for like a spiritual protection against, negative entities or anything like that?
Really, I don't, other than, trying to keep a clear mind, trying to, make sure that my state of mind that I'm in is a good one, that, I don't want to go into a location, upset, angry, anything like that, because, I think that is probably the most important thing.
Mm-hmm.
Which with me, so somewhere that me and a lot of other people in the field don't agree on is, I'm not a religious type, and I like, kind of my feeling is if I go in and I have that mindset of, okay, this is something, I need this religious protection, then I feel like it kind of puts a bias on my findings, on me being able to say, well, this is scientific, and, kind of, makes it lean more toward finding something paranormal versus a naturally explainable situation. So it's sort of like a case that I had worked. This was up in North Alabama back about 3 or 4 years ago. We had this person call us. 3 different paranormal teams had already been there and investigated. They had done house blessings. They had even went through and done an exorcism.
Mm-hmm.
And they told this guy that we just can't get rid of this. That your only hope is to move. This guy was absolutely terrified. When they were home, they were seeing shadows at the corner of their eyes. They were hearing things that when you walk in the house, it was just like an ominous feeling there. You know, you feel like you were being watched and really tense, really anxious.
Mm-hmm.
We went there and investigated. Like I say, we were the fourth team that had went in. And they had exorcisms, house blessings, told them all of this stuff. Basically told them nothing could be done. What it actually turned out to be was a fish aquarium. His fish aquarium, the little air filtration pump, was putting out an infrasound frequency, or a subsonic frequency, that works about the same resonant frequency that our eyeballs vibrate at.
Mm-hmm.
That was causing the shadows that people were seeing.
Wow.
Is the feeling of anxiety and all that. It was from the sound pressure. Mm-hmm. Even though we can't hear a sound, that doesn't mean the pressure doesn't affect us. You know, ultrasound is the same way. Mm-hmm. Basically, the air pump for his fish aquarium was sitting on top of a wooden dresser and up against the wall, and it was vibrating and putting off that frequency.
Wow.
All we did was replace the felt on the bottom of this air pump, moved it away from the wall, and all of a sudden the haunting stopped.
Wow. Yeah. That's great.
But but like I said, I mean, 3 different teams had went in there, and you know, they're going in and the holy water and all this stuff, and you know, and the whole time they were overlooking the obvious, mm-hmm. because they were so concerned about the boogeyman being there, you know, and I think that happens much too often.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there definitely it's probably a lot of that goes on that people just don't, that, like you said, it just gets overlooked, and they need someone like you, someone who's, you know, a rational thinker, to come in and solve the case. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, you know, there was another case similar to that we helped with. This was actually a case up in western Detroit. Mm-hmm. The elderly woman, she felt like she was having problems with anxiety. She felt like she was being choked. Mm-hmm. Having problems breathing. That ominous feeling like she was being watched. All this was going on. Yeah. Seeing things, hearing things. Investigation actually showed that she had such one of the worst rodent infestations in the apartment building that you can imagine. The wiring was horrible. The EMFs in the building were, I mean, just an unsafe level, literally. Yeah. And there was black mold that was growing inside some of the walls. Basically, what they did was, I mean, it was so bad that we actually reported it to the city because, you know, the landlord was just ignoring it. And this woman wasn't in good health anyway. And this situation, it was making her sick. The EMFs were causing hallucinations. The black mold was causing it to be hard for her to breathe. And she's, you know, then the whole issue of the rodents. Yeah. Basically, they moved her to a different apartment, went in, completely renovated it, rewired it. They even took out the drywall and replaced it. Cleaned all that up. She went back in. Not a problem at all.
Wow. Yeah. I definitely think, like you said, stuff like that gets overlooked. Because, like, Can't, I mean, I'm sure black mold on its own can cause all kinds of issues like that, and, man, and then the wiring, too. Very, very interesting. Well, I'm glad that you helped those people, because sounds like she probably could have eventually gotten really sick and died from that, right?
Yeah, it would have eventually killed her. It really would have. I mean, this place was horrible.
Yeah. That's I'm glad that they called you. Before we close it out and everything, I wanted to ask about some of your favorite gear that you use and have been using lately.
My background is I'm more of an audio guy. I've always loved tinkering with audio. I like I tend to prefer Tascam.
Mm-hmm.
And I see so many people go out and they'll buy the little cheap Walmart voice recorder, and or they'll buy one that they see on the paranormal website somewhere, and spend $50-$60 on it. Honestly, a lot of times they end up wasting their money because they get one that only records an MP3, and their EVPs are getting cut off in the compression settings.
Mm-hmm.
But Guitar Center sells like the Tascam and even some of the Zoom models for just a little more than what they're paying for that little cheap voice recorder. So, but I do love using a voice recorder and just live listening, and I'll ask a question, and I can't tell you how many times that by having my headphones hooked up to that voice recorder so I can hear what I'm getting, I've been able to interact in real time.
Yeah.
Ask a question, know immediately if I got a response to it. We did, there's an old sanatorium that we did just last weekend that when I was there a couple of years ago, I clapped 3 times in front of my camera so that I could sync my audio recorder and my camera together when I went back through to edit it. And when I did, I did that outside of this office door. Empty office, locked, all this good stuff. Nobody in there. And I hear a woman's voice, absolutely plain as day, that doesn't match anyone there. Says, "Come in."
Wow.
Because my class sounded like knocking on the door, I guess.
Wow.
And I got to hear that instantly. Some of the other equipment, the cameras, of course, I like the little GoPro knockoffs. I should say knockoffs. Those are so handy. They're extremely light, portable. I mean, you can put them anywhere. And, I'll take a rig, put a battery pack on one of those illuminators that's made for a CCTV type camera system, because you can get those for a fraction of the price of what you'd find like on the paranormal website.
Oh yeah.
And use it, and I can have it for hours of footage for something to just stick somewhere. Those game cameras that record audio and video.
Oh yeah.
Those are awesome to have.
Sure.
That's a really good investment, especially if it records audio too. But
definitely.
Probably the best piece of equipment that you can take, though, honestly, is a 99-cent notebook. That I can't stress enough for client and investigator, to have everything, put it on paper. I mean, yes, you need to get it on video and audio and all that, but you need that written record too.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's awesome. I try to, I've actually been doing that more, carrying around at least just a little pocket notebook and a pen. And even just for taking notes, or if I think of something, write it down.
Right, because think of this. How many times have you investigated somewhere? A month later, you can't remember two things that happened.
Mm-hmm.
And our memories fail us too. So that's why it's important. I mean, talk to your camera, talk to your recorder, narrate what's going on as it happens, and keep those notes.
Definitely.
Write down readings, write down what happens, got that where you get more of a complete picture.
Yeah, that's awesome advice. Definitely. Well, before we close it out, do you have any future events you're going to be at or anything like that? And also just let everyone know where they can find your stuff. And also the link is in the description, guys, but just let everyone know as well.
Absolutely. We haven't really had a chance to get out and do many events recently at that. We all have day jobs and our schedules have been kind of crazy, so it's actually been a little slow during the summer, but when we do, we're going to actually be putting some stuff together and hopefully getting that out over the next couple of months. But we'll be posting that to our website, which if anyone would like to look us up, it's CASPIR, CASPIR, CASPIRparanormal.org. Or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Facebook, it's CASPIR.paranormal. And if in doubt, Google my name with the word paranormal behind it, and it'll pull up everything, too, for some reason.
Nice. That's awesome.
It's funny. I found out someone had told me back about a year ago that if you search for my name with paranormal behind it, that it pulls up like everything that I've done for like the past 15 years.
That's great. Sweet. Well, that's easy. Frank Lee, Paranormal. Awesome, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on tonight and talking to us. And like, we went over some awesome stuff. We'll definitely have to have you on again because there's always more we can go over.
Anytime. I appreciate you having me. It's an honor for you to have me on the show here, and it's always great to talk to you. That's anytime that someone has me on. That's the way I look at it. Is conversation with one of my friends, and there's just a lot of people listening in to what we're saying, and I always enjoy it. And like I say, I appreciate you having me, and I'm always glad to do it.
Well, thanks so much, man, and we'll definitely get together soon and do something. That'd be a lot of fun. And
absolutely, let's make that happen, and we'll try a few experiments that I've got in mind that I've been wanting to test out.
Definitely. All right, man. Have a great night.
You do the same. Have a great one.
All right, man. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, guys, that was Frank Lee of CASPIR, and man, that was an awesome show. I hope you guys enjoyed the discussion. And CASPIR is the Central Alabama Society for Paranormal Investigation and Research, and as you can tell, I mean, he's a very intelligent guy, and I love the stories about figuring out what some of those people were experiencing was just, faulty wiring or the aquarium motor. I mean, that's definitely something that we need if you're doing home cases and things like that. You need someone like that to come in as well, because if there could be potential health hazards and things like that with the black mold and stuff like that. So it's definitely important to take into consideration, especially with the residential cases. But yeah, so next week we have Justin Brown of Interface Death, another rational thinker and a great investigator, and someone who has made a lot of awesome videos, kind of explaining how certain things work with like photography and all kinds of different stuff. If you check out his channel on YouTube at Interface Death, you'll see what I mean. And we're going to have him on, and definitely going to be asking him some questions about a lot of his personal experiences and things like that. So you won't want to miss that. And that will be, we're doing the show now at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. So I hope that's okay with everyone's schedules and everything. But we're just going to move it back a little bit and kind of keep it there. October 5th, I believe. Let me make sure. We have Matthew, I think it's October 5th, or it is the next date. But we're going to have Matthew from Gateway Paranormal coming on. And so we got some good stuff coming up. Some paranormal investigators, things like that. We did a lot of cryptids the past few shows, so we're gonna kick it paranormal, leading on into the fall, which is it's gonna be an awesome season, guys. Lots of good stuff coming. Anyway, guys, thanks so much for listening, and a huge thanks to Frank Lee of CASPIR for coming on tonight. It was an awesome show, and I'll see you guys at the next live stream video podcast, or I'll see you when I see you. All right, peace out, guys.